tailored. It's finally starting to warm up here, and that means we can get back in the garage, start working on the car and pushing out some more content. But speaking of new content, we just uploaded Dennis's 240Z video, so if you haven't seen that yet, it's an absolutely gorgeous car. You should definitely go check it out and let us know what you think. But today is going to be all about the Teal 240 and maybe some other shenanigans if we're lucky at the end of the day. The main thing we want to work on today is focusing on the fact that this car is my only car as a daily driver, so we want to make sure we have things like heat. We also want to fix that rust on the floorboard because there's some things I want to do with the interior, and we definitely want to sort out that rust before it becomes a real big issue. And the last thing we want to finish up is power steering, but we'll definitely get to that later. For now, we're going to be working on taking out the dash, a necessary but very tedious progress, so let's go. We're going to be disassembling what's left of the interior of the car. We're taking out as many loose bits as possible to allow us space and keep us organized. Since we'll be working around a lot of electronics and wiring, it's a good idea to roll down your windows for ease of access and to disconnect the battery. Failure to do so may lead to imminent doom. Unfortunately, these harnesses don't see much use without a complementary roll bar installed. Instead, we've been using the OEM shoulder belts in combination with the Corbo lap belts. We're taking these out along with our Rapid Sparco Evo seats to make room for the interior overhaul. On any car as old as this 1989 S13, many of the plastics become brittle and prone to cracking, so take special care when disassembling any bits that need to be pried apart and don't use brute force. Luckily, this job doesn't require many tools. Nearly every bolt in the interior will have the option of using a Phillips head or a 10mm hex head. Always go for the 10mm driver unless you have no other option. A plastic trim prior will help you from breaking delicate trim pieces instead of a metal bar. So one of the things that I always swear by when tackling any big project where you have lots of nuts and bolts and any little thing that may go missing is to get yourself some small sandwich bags, label them, and put all your various pieces in there. It keeps things nice and organized, and you end up knowing where all those extra bolts went when you finish the project. Make your mom proud by bringing her into the garage and showing off your organizational skills. If you're unsure of any of your previous sketchy wiring jobs you performed, this project would be the perfect opportunity for you to improve your handiwork. Well, as the winter season would have it, we're starting to run out of daylight. Granted, I do have this light here in the garage, but there's some other things that I want to get done outside of this car tonight, so we've gotten quite a bit done here today. Got the gauge cluster taken out, the under panels taken out. We even have that glove box and most of the radio and climate control panel taken out. So now comes time to remove the entire dash, which is held in by only a few 10mm bolts. An extra set of hands is actually quite useful upon removing this large and awkward to handle piece, so make sure to bring a friend for help. Unless you have no friends, in which case, ask your dad or your little brother to help. Once again, brute force often leads to cracked plastic, and having a cracked dash in an S chassis is like having a negative KD ratio. It doesn't really affect anything, but it just makes you sad knowing it's there. If your dash is severely cracked, it might be worth looking into an OEM-style cover lay to restore it to its former glory. A flock kit that gives your dash a matte suede look is also a great cheap option to look into. We only have a couple of cracks in this one, so we're going to leave it as is and keep it protected with a suede dash mat. Alright, we finally got the dash out. It wasn't quite as hard as I remember it being, but I'm just glad it's out so we can finally get to the bigger important things. But it's getting late, it's getting kind of dark out, and I'm getting kind of hungry, so I'm gonna go get some food and we're gonna come back to this another day. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to day 2 of the rust repair on the Teal 240. Now we're back in a familiar spot because unfortunately my garage doesn't have any outlets to plug in a welder. So we're back at the place where it all started with the Teal 240 build in a good friend of mine's driveway, where still our beloved Carol sits patiently waiting another 10 or 20 years for a good restoration. It always makes me so sad to see you this way, Carol. Not to worry though, Carol. We will get back to you sometime in the future when I have a buttload of money to just throw at you. People kind of doubt my willingness, I guess I would say, to keep this car for 20 years and then build it down the road. It just kind of has that sentimental value as my first car, the car that I've learned everything on, having it for 5 years. I can't let it go, and in my mind I have some really big plans for it. Maybe it'll happen. I'll be very sad if it doesn't, but right now my heart's still set on this car. She's gonna live on, one way or another. I can't wait. Now back to this dirty old thing. So if you're new to the channel and haven't really seen the rust spot on the car yet, it's not really too bad, but I definitely want to clean it up before I get the carpet laid down in here and we get everything buttoned down. I just don't want to forget about it and have it kind of spread to very vital areas of the car where it's kind of a pain to get to. It's kind of already in a painful spot where it's at. This is where the frame rail kind of goes under the car. That's why you have all this debris sitting in here, which we're going to vacuum out once we cut this out and hopefully get the rest of this rust in here taken care of. This is the only rust spot on the car that I found, so I can't complain, but it is rust, so we have to take care of it. Luckily, I've gone ahead and taken out the dash, so hopefully that'll give us a little bit more clearance. Personally, I'm just hoping it wasn't a big waste of time because, I mean, it didn't take that long. It took maybe an hour to get it out. The problem with these cars is that the plastics are so old and brittle that they easily crack when put under any kind of stress. So unfortunately I did crack a vent trying to take the top bolts of the dash out, so I'll have to look for another one. But they do make some replacement ones, some aftermarket aluminum or metal ones to fill in that gap because they do break so often. So maybe we'll look into that. We're jacking up the car to allow room for access underneath. As always, support your suspended car with jack stands placed at proper jack points. Failure to do so may also lead to imminent doom. This car won't be going anywhere for a while, so now it's time to remove the driver's seat with just 4 14mm bolts. Look who it is, everybody. It's our savior, the Mr. S13 Moog himself.
What's going on, man?
What's up, dude? You ready to work on this thing?
Yeah, a little cold.
A little cold? Yeah, it is. It could be worse though. It was like teens this morning.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm glad it's warmed up a little bit. But yeah, I got the dash taken out and seat taken out. I'm not sure what else we need. We can take out the pedal too if that'll make it easier to access. I assume it would.
It's not too bad. I couldn't remember where it was at.
Yeah.
So I was like, we'll have to look and see.
The tricky part is it is like right under.
It's a double wall, right?
It is at the floor of the floorboard right here. But this part's like right underneath the frame rail.
Okay.
That's why all this gunk and stuff's in here. Which I was gonna vacuum out right now.
Oh, nice. So
we had to make a quick store run and get some various supplies because we weren't sure what all we needed to do this job, but we ended up picking up some primer after we get everything welded back up and some color matched paint so that hopefully it matches up once we paint it all. I don't care about it looking pretty, we're gonna cover it with carpet, so it's not gonna be a big deal to me. But we also picked up some undercoating for the underside of the car to make sure that all that's protected since it'll be bare metal once we get everything welded up. And I think that's pretty much it. Some grinder wheels, wire wheels, and whatnot. We have Ashton's welder here, and I think we'll get started. We were worried that on the underside of the car, or where the firewall meets the actual floorboard of the car, might be a little complicated. We thought it might be a double layer thing, but it's actually just this part of the weld is kind of where it kind of overlaps, so this sheet metal kind of goes over and this comes down underneath it, and that's kind of where they connect up. So we'll fix all this rust up here, vacuum all the gunk out of here. Hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. We're measuring out some straight lines where we should make our initial cuts. The goal is to remove rust, so we'll take the layer of paint off to see where the rust extends to and remove it from there. Ashton uses his sonar power to predict where the rust will be. Straight lines will make creating a template and a replacement plate much easier to fabricate, so take your time. So I found these in my tool bag.
Can you put a date to them?
Let's see if I can find a date. No, but we started building this car in like August. And I think I was snacking on these while working on this car, doing the swap. It's really hard.
Are they frozen?
No, I think they're just stale.
Super stale. Can you taste if it's stale? Does it taste different?
It's super tough. You wanna try one?
Let's do it.
So these are like
I get 2.
6 months old.
Oh my god.
These have been sitting in my tool bag over there in my garage for the past 6 months.
It's a little dehydrated. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Jerky worms.
They taste fine though.
Definitely jerky worms.
Jerky worms, yep. It kind of looks like a beef jerky
You need
bag.
a sponsor for a jerky worm.
I was looking for the safety goggles and I found those. They don't taste bad.
I don't know, can you... Can you get sick from jerky worms?
I don't.
That's what I'm gonna call them now, jerky worms.
I think it's just sugar. Does sugar ever go bad? Maybe a little syrup. I don't think we're gonna get sick off these things. These have literally been sitting in my bag like this. There's no oil on them, so we won't get sick from that.
No.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
You let them sit in your mouth for a little bit?
They kind of like soften down, yeah.
It doesn't go that far over.
It doesn't?
Like literally where it's at.
Nice. So that's just where it's
solid. Yeah.
So that metal's good. We'll just cut off only what we need, which is basically where we want to cut it initially. My frame rail was storing a nest of walnuts, which unsurprisingly managed to accumulate moisture and rust the kick panel away to nothing during its long life of sitting in a barn. Most people would suspect a small furry friend to be the cause of this issue. I still blame the possums. There it is. That is pretty rusty. Definitely rusting from the inside of there.
Yeah, it's going from the inside out.
It's really pitted, and I think it's just paint at some of these places. That's the only thing that's keeping it from being a hole.
Of junk in there, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Where does let's look under the engine bay.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how long that got in there.
You want to pop the hood? I think. See, there's this frame rail right here.
Yeah.
So I think it's possible that something crawled into. I think it's possible that something crawled into here.
And took it there.
And took it way back there, but it had to have been really small because there's some bracing where the K-frame mounts to the car. So it had to have been really small. Maybe even from the underside of the car.
Yeah, should we grab a vacuum and vacuum this thing out?
Yeah, let's do it. So that is the inside of the frame rail. I was expecting to find like a dead mouse in there or something, but everything came from the front of the frame rail and just trapped between this plate and the firewall. And moisture just built up in there and started rusting from the inside. So from there we might try to cover everything up from the inside, paint it with rust stopper if we can get any, and then we'll just measure up our new plate and put it in.
Get all comfortable.
Even with no carpet, no seat in there, still not a whole lot of room.
Snugly S chassis.
It just wants to hug you.
Yeah, I know it does.
Oh, it just fell off.
Yeah.
Wow. That's another beauty. Looks like earth on the inside of my car. Add it to the collection.
Wish I brought the Dremel.
Oh yeah, that would have been a good idea.
Get in there with a Dremel wheel and get some of that out there.
It's kind of cool how that just goes straight out to the front of the car. It's like a, kind of like a floor vent now. You start driving, you get some air moving through that tunnel.
Yeah, we can solve that.
Goes off your feet.
West Coast Custom. V-tailored customs. So since the rust extends to the inner part of the frame rail, we had to take off the downpipe because that's going to get in the way when we want to cut from the underneath of the car. And even though I haven't driven that car a whole bunch, it was a real pain to get some of these bolts off. But the downpipe's out of the way, and now we have room on this side of the frame rail. Oh wait, where am I at? There we go. We have room on this side of the frame rail to cut this out so we can weld in some new metal, paint it with undercoating, and we'll be good to go.
When you make your cuts, there will be a lot of sparks flying. These are hot metal bits, so it's important that you wear safety glasses to avoid imminent doom.
Look at that. Beautiful. So in case you were wondering, that's what the frame rail looks like, where the floorboard meets the firewall.
The time has come to create our template so we can cut out an accurate sheet of metal that will fit directly in our missing hole. It's best to measure twice and cut once. The replacement sheet metal we bought is 22 gauge, which should be thick enough for our application. The metal we're replacing has a few bends and curves to it, so it took a few tries to form the new sheet metal to the required specifications. We're prepping the old metal for welding by grinding back the old paint to clear the area of any contaminants that would ruin the connection. We're using an electric MIG welder for this project. It's not the best by any means, and you will get much better results from a welder that uses gas, but this should get the job done. To start off, we're setting the plate into position with some tack welds. Now that the plate is tacked into place, we can start welding. It's a good idea to allow about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of space in between each weld to allow it to cool down and not warp the metal. It was necessary to take some time every now and then to grind back any excess metal around the welds. Welcome back to day 2 or 3, whichever day it is, of welding the floorboard on the Teal 240. It's snowing today, and the car's outside, so welding this is going to be pretty fun.
I think it's 25 outside, 25 degrees.
Yeah.
That should be fun.
The snow's just really coming down, and I don't think anybody was expecting it. But we're going to head to Orchlands and pick up some maybe thinner wire.
Oh yeah, the smaller gauge.
Yeah. That'll
Wire.
help us weld, not burn through the metal as much as we were. And hopefully we'll be able to get this done today. It's freezing, but we're pretty determined, so let's go. So we got to the Teal 240, got the welder out, but within like 15 minutes it had already snowed like 1/2 inch. Now it's like 1 inch of snow. It's just snowing too much for us to complete the welding where we're at. The environment's just not friendly for a welder to be sitting out in the snow. So we're gonna come back to another day. We tried, but you gotta know what battles to let go of, and hopefully we'll get back to it tomorrow. So it's another day of working on the welds on the Teal 240. Unfortunately, we weren't able to finish the initial time that we started because we didn't want to keep the neighbors up with our loud grinding. So I'm back today in our snowy weather. I've got like 5 layers on to keep warm. I'm dressed like K-Dot, so everybody's gonna be able to see me. But hopefully we get to finishing it today. It's just gonna be me. We got a lot done that first initial time. So the welds may not look pretty at all, but it's an electric MIG welder and it's my first time, so what are you gonna do? I'm just happy the rust isn't there anymore. So we just have a few more spots to go. I accidentally burnt a hole right there, and then we gotta fix this section out right here. Might cut a little more, see if I can fill it in. Hopefully it should only take me like another 3 or 4 hours at the most. We've spent about, I'd say 12 hours total getting everything ready, welding it, cutting, whatever we need to do in this little section. So I can see why body shops will charge a lot to take on a project like this, but I can also see why a lot of people recommend just tackling this head on, because it's kind of intimidating cutting your car up and then welding something new on that when you've never welded before. But I actually find it kind of fun. Welding seems very tedious, and I like tedious things, and that takes up a lot of time, and I can just go on for hours just working on my car. So I enjoy it. I'd recommend doing something like this if you have a small little rust area on your car. Luckily we were able to work around the frame in there. I know it's not the prettiest right now, but I really just care about fixing up this rust hole in the interior, and if it gets worse later down the road, we'll fix it. But I just really want to finish this car up, so let's get to it.
another little fun bit. I got a little happy with the grinder here, so my hand's a little cut up. It'll focus in. Oh well, you see it. So I figure it's time to share a quick little update with you guys. It's way past what I thought it was going to be. I'm not even anywhere near done. I actually had to cut out a new section because I found some more rust where I was welding, and the weld would just kind of melt away the metal when I tried to touch it. So yeah, we had to cut out this new section here, which is what's connected to the frame rail right there. So I've ground away the rust, if it'll focus in. This was all rusty right here, all this metal. Some of it was good right here, but I wanted to cut out a section so I can make it nice and square. We'll fill it in, probably drill some holes through the sheet metal I'm going to put in there, and maybe tack some welds on there after we get it all situated, but some more time added, which is a pain, but I want to make sure I do it right. It may not look pretty, but hopefully it's structurally rigid, and if it's not, I'm sure you body guys will let me know down below. And so the fight against rust continues. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Welcome back to another episode of me trying to figure out this mess. Got some progress done. I've already cut out the extra piece that I need for this extra little slot that I cut out last time I was here. Don't mind the scruff, it's an indication of how long I've been going at this, which is quite a while. I definitely understand why auto body shops would charge a bit for work like this, because it's very tedious and it's just time consuming, but it's kind of fun, so it's not too bad. So once again, please don't mind the welds, as I'm a total noob at this. Such a noob that I cut my finger a little bit while grinding. No worries though, because I already have my tetanus shot. What I've done for cutting this piece out right here is trying to weld this section up against this part of the car. Wasn't working. The weld was just burning through the rust and I couldn't get a solid connection, so I went ahead and cut this out and grinded it down to bare metal. This is the frame right here, or the frame rail. So we've got all that rust out of there, and we've got this beautiful little piece to replace it. When you're cutting out your new template, I would highly recommend using some hard paper or some cardboard to cut out your template. It's much easier to cut out your template and then cut the sheet of metal to fit. It's just a lot easier because paper is much more lighter, and you can, you know, cut it up with a razor blade if you need to. So right now I'm working on re-welding this piece up here because this kind of came loose as I was tearing all this metal out. I've grinded down all the edges to bare metal, getting away the paint so that we can get a good connection. I've kind of cut across here, so I'll have to fill in that gap there. And one thing I'll do is drill holes in the center of this so that maybe we can weld it back and connect the frame rail to the firewall that I've cut out. So I'm not sure that it's totally necessary, but that's the way I found it, so we're going to replace it as best as I can. Finally getting towards the end of our welding job on the Teal 240. It's taken about a week. Started this on Friday. It's currently the Friday after. And I finished patching up that final weld job. The welds are awful, really spotty and popcorny, but please forgive me as I am a beginner. Got this new plate put in. This part here was a pain in the butt because there's a lot of tricky corners and I cut a little extra into there, so I kind of added some pieces on top of here. Maybe not the best way to go, but I really just wanted to get this done. Next thing to do is probably drill a few holes into the floorboard itself so that we can tack weld onto our new sheet metal. Now that we've got the tack welds in place, we're going to go ahead and apply some seam sealer gray between the firewall and the floorboard to fill in any gaps right there and keep moisture locked out. I'm also going to line this stuff around all the welds that we did just to fill in any gaps. I know it's not really for that purpose, but it gives me peace of mind to fill in anything that we may have missed. So this is kind of a first for me. I'm pretty happy with what I could have done. However, if you're looking for more professional looking results on your car, if you were to tackle this project on your own, I would say it's definitely worth it maybe to look into a professional repair. But it's gonna work. All those welds are good. I just covered them up. It's probably overkill and maybe an unnecessary application of this seam sealer. But I definitely wanted something that's gonna fill in the gaps, and this is gonna work great. So it's gotten pretty dark out, but it's not too late, so I'm gonna keep going on because tonight is do or die for me on this weld job. So what we're gonna do next is coat the underside of the car with some undercoating to protect it from any future corrosion that may occur. So hopefully this will keep that out. And then what we're gonna do on the inside, on the top layer, is we're gonna cover the car or those panels with some primer, hopefully followed by some, what I hope is color matched paint and a spray can. So let's get to it. And now for the final piece, our color matched spray paint, complimentary of our local auto parts store. So, thank you. I hope it's the right color. Moment of truth. Oh, it is. That is our color. It's hard to tell. Where it begins and ends. It's so dark. I don't know about you, but that's looking pretty good for the first coat. Looks even better than when I originally found it, of course. A couple more coats of this and we should be golden. Alright guys, that is it for this episode of Welding on the Teal 240. And I want to extend a massive shout out to Ashton for letting me borrow his welder and kind of showing me the ropes and getting started on this, without whom I wouldn't have been able to tackle this by myself. It is quite a big job for all you guys who don't have any experience with welding. I certainly had none whatsoever before this project. It's a big job, especially when you come into contact with rust and stuff like that. You want to be careful. I cut my finger. Luckily I had my tetanus shot already. So you want to be very careful, and you want to make sure to get rid of any rust that you find there, because you can't weld against rust, or you can't weld to rust. When I tried it, the metal just burned through, obviously. Most of it was because I didn't know the rust was there, so that's why I cut out that extra section to get rid of that, so we could have some decent welds there. This job is definitely not professional looking at all, so if you guys are looking for a professional touch, you can definitely seek out a body shop, but just know that it's going to be quite expensive, even for a hole this small. It just takes up so much time, it's so tedious. You have to fabricate new pieces if you don't have a replacement floorboard or firewall, footwell, to replace that section where there's holes at. So don't be intimidated. I mean, I certainly was the whole time, but it's something you can do if you have a little bit of mechanical know-how. You just gotta jump into it, under some welding supervision though. My weld job definitely wasn't the prettiest, and I could have taken way more time with it to really dial things in, but I really just want to get this thing done, put some carpet in there, because nobody's going to see it again. Well, hopefully nobody's going to see it again. But this should keep the car protected for a lot longer now, so the rust isn't going to spread anywhere else, I hope. So my welding job is far from the most decent thing in the welding world, as I'm sure I'll hear from you more experienced folks. Don't be afraid to let me know what I did wrong and what I could have done better. You know, that could really help other people who are looking to get into this thing, so please be sure to shoot us some pointers. As someone who's never really been around welding, I will say that it feels really accomplishing to see this project done, and if you're looking to get into it, all you gotta do is start. That's it for this episode of Be Tailored. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you got anything from this video, and consider subscribing.
I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.